The Nibiru Discovery. Chapter 1, The Signal. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of the Kepler station observation deck, watching the stars whirl slowly past the reinforced viewport. After 23 years of deep space astronomy, she thought she had seen everything the cosmos could offer. She was wrong. "Elena, you need to see this." The voice of her colleague, Dr. James Chen, crackled through the intercom with barely contained excitement. "Conference room 7, now." She found him hunched over a holographic display, his usually pristine lab coat wrinkled from hours of work. Surrounding him were printouts covered in calculations, empty coffee cups, and the detritus of an all-night research session. "James, you look terrible. When did you last sleep?" "Sleep can wait." He gestured to the swirling three-dimensional model floating above the projector. "Elena, we found it. We actually found it." The hologram showed a planetary body unlike anything in their stellar catalogs. It was roughly Earth-sized but with a peculiar orbital pattern that seemed to defy conventional physics. The planet moved in an elongated ellipse that took it far beyond the outer reaches of known space before swinging back toward the inner solar system. "Found what, exactly?" Elena asked, though something in the pit of her stomach already knew the answer. "Nibiru." The word hung in the air like a forbidden incantation. The mythical planet from ancient Sumerian texts. The Wanderer. "Elena, it's real, and it's heading toward us." Elena sank into a chair, her mind racing. Nibiru had been dismissed by mainstream astronomy for decades as pseudoscience, conspiracy theory material. Ancient texts spoke of a hidden planet whose inhabitants, the Anunnaki, had once visited Earth. But this... "Show me the data," she said quietly. James activated another display. Spectral analysis scrolled past in streams of color-coded information. Atmospheric composition, nitrogen-oxygen mix, remarkably similar to Earth. Magnetic field, strong and stable. Surface gravity, 1.2 Earth normal. "Elena, this planet isn't just real, it's habitable." "How long until closest approach?" 18 months. It'll come within 12 astronomical units of Earth before beginning its outward swing. We'll have a window of opportunity that won't come again for another 3,600 years. Elena stood and walked to the viewport again. Somewhere out there, invisible to the naked eye but now undeniably real, was a world that had sparked humanity's imagination for millennia. A world that might hold answers to questions humanity had been asking since it first looked up at the stars. Within hours, the discovery had electrified the global scientific community. Emergency sessions were called at the United Nations, the European Space Agency, and NASA. The revelation that Nibiru existed sent shockwaves through academic institutions, religious organizations, and governments worldwide. Dr. Marcus Holloway, director of the International Deep Space Exploration Initiative, convened an emergency meeting of the world's top scientists, engineers, and policymakers. The briefing room at IDSEI headquarters in Geneva buzzed with nervous energy as Elena presented their findings to an audience that included Nobel laureates, heads of state, and military officials. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to propose, "we stand at a crossroads in human history. For the first time, we have the opportunity to visit a planet that may harbor intelligent life, a planet whose inhabitants, if the ancient texts are to be believed, may have visited Earth thousands of years ago." A murmur rippled through the audience. Senator Patricia Williams of the United States leaned forward. "Dr. Vasquez, what exactly are you proposing?" "A manned mission to Nibiru," Elena replied without hesitation. "Our window is limited. If we're going to do this, we need to act now." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the Japanese Space Technology Division, spoke up. "The technical challenges alone would be staggering. The distances involved, the fuel requirements, life support systems." "Which brings me to the hibernation protocol," Elena continued. "Dr. Reyes in Mexico City has perfected the cryogenic suspension technology. We can keep a small crew in stasis for the journey, reducing life support needs and allowing for a much smaller, faster ship. Marcus Holloway stood, his weathered face grave. "How many crew members are we talking about?" "6," Elena replied. "A multidisciplinary team. Xenobiologist, geologist, linguist, engineer, medical officer, and mission commander. You're volunteering for this mission, aren't you?" Senator Williams observed. Elena nodded. "As the mission's xenobiologist, yes. This is what I've trained my entire life for." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. This wouldn't be a simple there-and-back mission. The crew would be traveling to an unknown world, potentially inhabited by beings whose technology and intentions were completely unknown. They might be welcomed as long-lost relatives returning home, or they might be seen as invaders to be destroyed. Dr. Holloway cleared his throat. "I'll be frank with all of you. This mission has a high probability of being one way. We're talking about sending 6 people on a journey that may well be humanity's greatest adventure, or its most tragic loss." "Then we'd better choose the right 6 people," Elena said quietly. Chapter 2, The Chosen. 6 months of rigorous selection, training, and preparation followed. Elena had been chosen as the mission's xenobiologist, but the process of selecting her 5 crewmates had been exhaustive. From over 10,000 applicants worldwide, the selection committee had narrowed the field to 6 individuals who represented humanity's best hope of successfully completing the mission. Commander Sarah Mitchell, a veteran of the Mars colonies with 20 years of deep space experience, would lead the expedition. Her steady demeanor and proven leadership under pressure made her the unanimous choice. She had successfully navigated 3 crisis situations in space, including the rescue of the Phobos research station crew when their life support systems failed. Dr. Alexander Petrov, a Russian geologist who had mapped more alien worlds remotely than anyone else alive, would analyze Nibiru's surface composition and geological history. His work on the ice moons of Jupiter had revolutionized humanity's understanding of planetary formation. Dr. Li Wei, a linguist and anthropologist who spoke 17 Earth languages and had developed the first universal translation algorithms for potential alien contact, would handle any communication with Nibiru's inhabitants. Her work with the isolated tribes of New Guinea had proven invaluable in understanding how to approach completely foreign cultures. Dr. Gabriel Santos, a Brazilian engineer and inventor whose innovations in nanotechnology and materials science had made interstellar travel possible, would maintain their equipment and potentially reverse engineer any alien technology they encountered. Dr. Amira Hassan, an Egyptian medical officer with extensive experience in space medicine and xenobiology, would monitor the crew's health and study any biological samples they encountered. Her research on extremophile organisms had prepared her for the possibility of alien life forms. The 6 of them spent months training together, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses, building the kind of trust that would be essential when they were alone on an alien world, millions of miles from home. Their ship, the Prometheus, was humanity's most advanced vessel. Built in the orbital shipyards above Earth, it incorporated every breakthrough in propulsion, life support, and defensive systems. The fusion drive could accelerate them to a significant fraction of light speed, while the hibernation pods would keep them in perfect stasis for the journey. Elena stood in the ship's laboratory, running her hands over the pristine equipment that would help her analyze whatever life forms they encountered on Nibiru. Electron microscopes, genetic sequencers, atmospheric analyzers, everything she needed to unlock the secrets of an alien biosphere. Having second thoughts? Commander Mitchell appeared in the doorway, her expression understanding. "Not second thoughts," Elena replied. "Just contemplating the magnitude of what we're about to do. For thousands of years, humans have wondered if we're alone in the universe. In a few months, we may have our answer. And if that answer isn't what we hope?" Elena turned to face her commander. "Then we'll deal with whatever we find. That's what explorers do." The launch came sooner than any of them were ready for. The orbital window to intercept Nibiru's trajectory was narrow, and they couldn't afford to miss it. Elena's last memory before entering hibernation was of Earth shrinking to a pale blue dot in the viewport, carrying with it everyone and everything she had ever known. The hibernation chamber was filled with a soft blue light as the cryogenic systems engaged. Elena felt the cold seeping into her bones, her heart rate slowing, her breathing becoming shallow. As consciousness faded, her last thought was of the ancient Sumerian tablets that had first spoken of Nibiru. After 3,600 years, humanity was finally going home. Chapter 3, Awakening. Elena's return to consciousness was gradual, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep, dark pool. Her body felt stiff and foreign, as if she were inhabiting someone else's limbs. The hibernation chamber hummed softly as it completed its revival sequence, flooding her system with stimulants and nutrients. "Elena? Can you hear me?" Dr. Hassan's voice came through the chamber's speakers, professional but tinged with relief. Yes. Elena's voice was a hoarse whisper. "How long?" 14 months. We're in Nibiru's gravity well now. The ship's automated systems began revival procedures 6 hours ago. Elena forced her eyes open, blinking against the soft light. Through the chamber's transparent cover, she could see the familiar interior of the Prometheus, but something felt different. There was a subtle vibration in the ship's hull, and the lighting seemed somehow warmer. One by one, the crew emerged from hibernation. Commander Mitchell was first to fully recover, her military training allowing her to shake off the effects of extended stasis quickly. Dr. Petrov grumbled in Russian as he stretched his cramped muscles, while Dr. Santos immediately began checking the ship's systems. "Status report," Mitchell ordered as they gathered in the main briefing room. Dr. Santos consulted his tablet. "All primary systems nominal. Life support at 100%. However, there's something unusual. The ship's sensors are detecting artificial electromagnetic signatures from the planet's surface." "Artificial?" Elena leaned forward. "You mean structures? Possibly technology. The patterns are too regular to be natural phenomena." Dr. Li Wei had been monitoring communications frequencies. "I'm also picking up what might be radio transmissions. The patterns suggest intelligence, but I can't decode them yet." Commander Mitchell moved to the main display. The planet Nibiru filled the screen, a blue-brown marble suspended against the star field. Swirling cloud formations revealed glimpses of vast continents and deep oceans. It was beautiful and undeniably inhabited. "Recommendations?" Mitchell asked. "We need to establish orbit and conduct a thorough scan," Dr. Petrov suggested. "Map the surface, identify population centers, analyze atmospheric composition." "Agreed," Elena added, "but we should also try to establish communication. If there are inhabitants, they've likely detected our approach by now." Dr. Li Wei nodded. "I can begin working on a basic mathematical greeting. Prime numbers, universal constants, the kind of pattern that would indicate intelligence to any technological species." As the Prometheus settled into a stable orbit, Elena found herself pressed against the observation deck's viewport, studying the world below. Cities dotted the continents, not the chaotic sprawl of human settlements, but geometric patterns that spoke of careful planning and advanced engineering. Vast structures connected the cities, transportation networks, or perhaps energy conduits that spanned entire continents. "Elena, you need to see this." Dr. Petrov's voice carried excitement and something else, concern. She found him in the geology lab, staring at a display showing mineral composition data from the planet's surface. "What am I looking at, Alexander?" "Gold. Massive amounts of it. Not just surface deposits, but industrial-scale mining operations. Refineries, processing plants. Elena, someone has been extracting precious metals from this planet on a scale that would make our entire civilization look like cave dwellers." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the recycled air. Ancient Sumerian texts spoke of the Anunnaki coming to Earth to mine gold, enslaving humanity to work their mines. If those stories were true, if the inhabitants of Nibiru really had visited Earth in humanity's past. "Commander," Dr. Li Wei's voice crackled over the intercom, urgent with excitement. "We're receiving a transmission. It's in Sumerian. Ancient Sumerian." Elena and Dr. Petrov rushed to the communications center, where Dr. Li Wei sat hunched over her translation equipment, her face pale with wonder. "What does it say?" Mitchell asked. Li Wei looked up, her expression a mixture of awe and fear. "Welcome home, children of Earth. We have been waiting for your return." The words hung in the air like a thunderbolt. Elena felt her worldview shifting, ancient mysteries suddenly clicking into place. The stories were true. Humanity's mythical origins, the ancient gods who had come from the sky, it was all real. "There's more," Li Wei continued. "Coordinates for a landing site. And, a warning. They're saying something about others who will not welcome our presence. There appear to be factions among the inhabitants." Commander Mitchell straightened, her military training taking over. "Plot a course for the coordinates they provided, but keep our weapon systems on standby. We don't know what we're walking into." As the Prometheus descended through Nibiru's atmosphere, Elena watched the alien landscape rushing past below. Vast forests of silver-leaf trees stretched to the horizon, broken by rivers that flowed like molten metal in the strange light of Nibiru's sun. Mountains thrust skyward in impossible spires, their peaks capped with structures that might have been cities or temples. The landing site was a broad plain surrounded by those towering spires. As the ship touched down with barely a whisper, Elena could see figures moving in the distance, tall, graceful beings that walked with purpose toward their landing site. "Atmospheric analysis complete," Dr. Hassan reported. "Oxygen levels at 21%, nitrogen 78. Trace gases within acceptable parameters. We can breathe the air, though I recommend masks until we know more about potential pathogens." Commander Mitchell stood, her hand resting on her sidearm. "Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Li Wei, you're with me. The rest of you monitor from here and be ready for emergency liftoff." Elena's heart hammered as the ship's airlock cycled open. After millions of miles and months of travel, they were about to step onto an alien world and meet beings who might have shaped humanity's destiny thousands of years ago. The air was warm and carried scents she couldn't identify, something like cinnamon mixed with ozone and growing things. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, making each step feel substantial and grounding. The figures approaching were clearly not human, yet they shared enough similarities to suggest common origins. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and faces that held an ethereal beauty. Their skin had a golden hue that seemed to generate its own soft light, and their eyes were large and dark, filled with an intelligence that felt ancient beyond measure. The leader of the group raised one hand in what might have been a universal gesture of greeting. When he spoke, the words came in perfect English, though his voice carried harmonics that no human throat could produce. "Dr. Elena Vasquez, Commander Sarah Mitchell, Dr. Li Wei. Welcome to Nibiru. I am Enlil, first among the Watchers. We have monitored your journey since you left your cradle world." Elena found her voice. "You know us?" Enlil's expression, if it could be called that, seemed almost amused. "We have watched over your species since its infancy. It is time you learn the truth of your heritage." Chapter 4, The Truth of Origins. The structures Enlil led them to defied human understanding of architecture. Walls seemed to flow like frozen water, supported by forces Elena couldn't identify. Light came from nowhere and everywhere, filling the spaces with a warm glow that felt alive. They were brought to a vast chamber whose ceiling stretched impossibly high, supported by columns that twisted in helical patterns. At the center stood what could only be described as a living holographic display, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy that pulsed with points of light. "Your species calls this place Nibiru," Enlil said, gesturing to the display. "We know it as an Unkie, the dwelling place between the stars. For millions of years, our world has traveled the Great Ellipse, visiting the young systems where life struggles to take hold." Elena stared at the display, watching as their planet's orbital path traced a vast arc through space, bringing it close to dozens of star systems over the course of millennia. "You're nomads," Commander Mitchell observed. "We are gardeners," Enlil corrected. "We seed life where it can flourish, guide its evolution where it shows promise, and preserve it when extinction threatens." Dr. Li Wei stepped forward. The ancient texts, the Sumerian tablets, they speak of the Anunnaki coming to Earth to mine gold. Enlil's expression grew complex. Gold is indeed precious to us, but not as your species understands. Our technology requires a specific isotope of gold that is rare in the galaxy. We have mined it from many worlds, always carefully, always ensuring the native biosphere remains intact. But Earth was different, Elena said, the pieces falling into place. You found something else there. We found potential. A primate species with remarkable cognitive flexibility. Your ancestors were barely more advanced than the other great apes, but they possessed something unique, the ability to imagine, to dream of things that did not yet exist. The holographic display shifted, showing images of prehistoric Earth. Elena watched, fascinated, as early humans worked alongside the towering figures of the Anunnaki. It wasn't enslavement, it was education. We taught your ancestors agriculture, mathematics, writing. We gave them the tools to build civilization. But there were disagreements among our people about how far this guidance should go. Disagreements? Commander Mitchell asked. Enlil's features darkened. My brother Enki believed your species should be allowed to develop naturally, with minimal intervention. Others, led by Marduk, wanted to create a permanent ruling class, to keep humanity dependent on our guidance forever. What happened? War. The word hung heavy in the air. Brother fought brother while your ancestors watched their gods battle in the heavens. In the end, we chose exile over continued conflict. We departed Earth, leaving only monuments and stories to mark our presence. Elena felt a chill of understanding. The ancient monuments. Stonehenge, the pyramids, the Nazca lines, they were your work. Built in partnership with your ancestors. Landing beacons for our return, should it ever become necessary. And now, after 3,600 years, you have found your way to us. Dr. Li Wei had been listening intently. You said there were disagreements. Are those factions still active? Enlil's expression grew grave. Marduk and his followers still believe humanity should serve rather than stand as equals. They view your arrival here not as a homecoming, but as an opportunity to reclaim their lost dominion over Earth. As if summoned by his words, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Enlil's head turned toward the sound, his body tensing in a way that needed no translation. Commander, Elena said quietly, I think we need to get back to the ship. But even as she spoke, figures appeared at the chamber's entrances, tall beings like Enlil, but their golden skin was marked with darker patterns, and their eyes held a coldness that made Elena's blood freeze. The leader of the newcomers stepped forward, his presence filling the room with an almost physical weight. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of ages. I am Marduk, rightful lord of the Earth realm. The children have come home at last. His gaze fixed on Elena, and she felt as if she were being examined by a predator. How long has it been since your species knelt before its creators? Commander Mitchell's hand moved to her sidearm. We don't kneel to anyone. Marduk's laugh was like thunder. Defiant. How quaint. Your ancestors knew their place in the natural order. They understood that the created serves the creator. The created chooses its own path, Elena said, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. We didn't come here to worship ancient gods. We came to meet our neighbors among the stars. Neighbors? Marduk's expression twisted. You are children playing with fire, barely able to leave your own solar system. You have learned nothing in our absence. Enlil stepped between them. Brother, they have traveled across the void to reach us. That alone proves they have grown beyond your expectations. They have grown into a plague upon their world, Marduk snarled. Poisoning their air, fouling their waters, driving countless species to extinction. This is the result of your precious independence. Elena felt the sting of truth in his words, but she also felt something else, determination. We've made mistakes. Every species does as it learns to manage technology. But we're learning. We're trying to do better. Learning, Marduk repeated mockingly. Your species has been learning for millennia, and yet you still wage war over resources that could be shared, still let your people starve while others feast in luxury. You are children, and it is time you remembered your place. The chamber filled with tension as the two factions of Anunnaki faced each other. Elena realized they were witnessing something that had been building for thousands of years, a fundamental disagreement about humanity's role in the cosmic order. "What do you want from us?" Commander Mitchell asked. Marduk smiled, and the expression was predatory. "Submission. Acknowledgement. A return to the proper order of things. Your world needs guidance, and we are prepared to provide it." "And if we refuse?" Elena asked. "Then we will take what we require regardless of your protests. Your technology, primitive though it is, interests us. Your biological diversity would make useful additions to our collection. And your population, well, there is always need for workers in the deep mines." Elena felt her blood turn to ice. This was the choice humanity faced, submission or slavery. But Enlil stepped forward again. "There is another way. The old laws still hold, even here. I invoke the right of challenge." Marduk's eyes narrowed. "You would risk everything on these primitives?" "I believe in their potential. As I always have." Elena didn't understand the full implications of what was happening, but she could see that Enlil was placing himself in danger on humanity's behalf. "What does that mean?" she asked. Enlil turned to her, his ancient eyes sad but determined. "It means that humanity's fate will be decided by trial. Not by force, not by fiat, but by proof of worthiness." "What kind of trial?" Marduk's laughter echoed through the chamber. "A test of wisdom, courage, and understanding. Your species will be given a task that will determine whether you are ready to stand as equals among the Star Children, or whether you will remain forever bound to your creators." Elena felt the weight of her entire species' future settling on her shoulders. "What kind of task?" Enlil's expression was grave. "You must prove that humanity has learned from its mistakes. You must demonstrate that your species can choose wisdom over power, cooperation over domination, sacrifice over self-interest." "And if we fail?" Marduk's smile was cold as winter. "Then you will kneel. Forever." Chapter 5, The Test. The task, when it was finally explained, seemed impossibly complex. Deep within Nibiru lay an ancient repository called the Hall of Echoes, where the collective knowledge and memory of the Anunnaki civilization was stored. Within this repository was a device called the Mirror of Souls, a technology that could reveal the true nature of any species by examining not just their actions, but their deepest motivations and potential futures. "The mirror will show 3 possible paths for humanity," Enlil explained as he led Elena and her crew through the winding passages beneath the Anunnaki city. "What you choose will determine your species' relationship with the galactic community forever." Dr. Petrov, who had been analyzing the structure of the tunnels, looked up from his scanner. "These passages are incredibly old. Some of these rock formations predate Earth's formation. The Hall of Echoes was carved from the heart of our world when the universe was young," Enlil confirmed. "It holds the memories of 1,000 civilizations, the wisdom of species that rose and fell before your son was born." Elena felt the weight of history pressing down on her as they descended deeper into Nibiru's core. The air grew warmer, charged with an energy that made her skin tingle. Strange symbols lined the walls, shifting and changing as they passed, as if responding to their presence. "Why us?" Commander Mitchell asked. "Why is humanity being judged now?" "Because your species stands at a crossroads," Enlil replied. "You have developed the technology to leave your cradle world, to touch the stars. But you have not yet learned to wield that power wisely. The choice you make here will echo across the galaxy for millennia to come." They emerged into a vast chamber that took Elena's breath away. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, supported by crystalline formations that hummed with inner light. At the center of the chamber stood a structure that defied description, part temple, part machine, part living organism. The Mirror of Souls rose from the chamber floor like a flower of light and metal, its surfaces reflecting not just images but possibilities, dreams, fears. Elena could see herself reflected in its faceted surfaces, but each reflection showed a different version of herself: scientist, warrior, mother, destroyer. Marduk and his followers were already present, arranged in a circle around the mirror. Their expressions were smug, confident. They clearly believed they knew what the mirror would reveal about humanity. The testing will require a representative of your species to interface directly with the mirror, Enlil explained. The experience will be intense. The mirror will examine not just your conscious thoughts, but the deepest layers of your psyche, your genetic memory, your species' collective unconscious. Elena stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it." "Elena, no." Commander Mitchell grabbed her arm. "We don't know what this thing might do to you." "This is why I'm here," Elena replied gently. "This is what I've trained for my entire life. To represent humanity among the stars." Dr. Hassan ran a quick medical scan. "Your vital signs are elevated but stable. However, I have no idea what kind of stress this device might place on your nervous system." "Only one way to find out," Elena said, attempting a smile she didn't feel. She approached the mirror slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs. As she drew near, the device seemed to respond to her presence, its surfaces brightening, patterns of light racing across its crystalline structure. "Place your hands on the interface," Enlil instructed. "Open your mind to the experience. Do not resist what you see, but remember, you are experiencing possibilities, not certainties. The future is not fixed." Elena pressed her palms against the mirror's warm surface and immediately felt a shock of connection that went beyond the physical. Her consciousness expanded, stretching across time and space, touching the minds of billions of humans across Earth's history. The first vision nearly overwhelmed her. She saw humanity as Marduk saw it, a species of consumers and destroyers, turning their beautiful world into a wasteland of pollution and conflict. Wars raged across continents as resources dwindled. The oceans boiled with toxic algae blooms while the last forests burned. Cities crumbled as their populations fled the rising seas, and in the end, humanity destroyed itself in a final, desperate war over the last habitable regions of their dying world. But even as the horror of that possible future filled her mind, Elena felt something else: resistance. The deepest part of her being rejected this vision, not because it was impossible, but because it was incomplete. The second vision was radically different. She saw humanity embracing its role as Marduk's servants, kneeling before the returned gods and accepting their guidance in all things. Earth was transformed into a paradise, its environment restored by Anunnaki technology. Humans lived in perfect cities, their every need provided for, their lives extended by advanced medicine. But they were children forever, never growing, never exploring, never dreaming of anything beyond what their masters allowed. This vision, too, Elena rejected. Safety and comfort were not enough. Humanity needed challenge, needed the freedom to fail and learn and grow. A species that never struggled never truly lived. The third vision came slowly, built from the depths of Elena's own hopes and dreams. She saw humanity facing its challenges head-on, making the hard choices necessary to heal their world and expand into the stars. It wasn't easy, there were failures, setbacks, even disasters. But humanity learned from each mistake, grew stronger with each trial. They reached out to other species not as masters or servants, but as equals, offering what they had learned and learning in return. This future held no guarantees. Humanity might still fail, might still make terrible mistakes. But they would face those challenges as free beings, choosing their own path among the stars. As the visions faded, Elena became aware that she was no longer alone in the mirror's embrace. Somehow, the rest of her crew had joined her in the device's consciousness, sharing the experience. Commander Mitchell's steady courage, Dr. Petrov's curiosity about the universe's mysteries, Dr. Liwei's fascination with communication and understanding, Dr. Santos's drive to build and create, Dr. Hassan's desire to heal and protect, all of their hopes and dreams flowed together in the mirror's light. But there was something else, something that made Elena gasp with wonder. The mirror had reached beyond the 6 humans present, touching the minds of people across Earth. Farmers working to restore degraded soil, scientists developing clean energy, teachers inspiring the next generation, ordinary people making small choices to help their neighbors and protect their environment, millions of humans working toward a better future. This was humanity's true nature, Elena realized. Not the darkness that Marduk saw, not the helplessness he offered to cure, but the endless capacity for growth, for hope, for reaching toward something better. The mirror released her suddenly, and Elena staggered backward into Commander Mitchell's arms. The chamber was silent except for the device's humming and her own ragged breathing. "What did you see?" Enlil asked gently. Elena straightened, looking directly at Marduk. "I saw a species that refuses to choose between freedom and wisdom. We'll make mistakes, probably terrible ones. We'll face challenges that seem impossible. But we'll face them together, as free beings making our own choices." Marduk's expression was thunderous. "You choose chaos over order, struggle over peace. We choose growth over stagnation," Elena replied. "We choose the right to be wrong, and the responsibility to make it right." The mirror pulsed with brilliant light, and somehow Elena knew that her choice had been recorded, witnessed by the ancient device and the civilizations whose memories it held. "The testing is complete," Enlil announced. "Humanity has chosen its path." Marduk stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. "This proves nothing. The mirror shows only possibilities, not truths. These primitives will destroy themselves within centuries." "Perhaps," Enlil replied calmly. "But that is their choice to make." "I will not accept this decision," Marduk snarled. "The natural order will be restored, with or without the mirror's blessing." Elena felt a chill of fear. The testing was over, but the real danger was just beginning.